ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. So, can I start with my questions, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. So we are having the second sequel, the sequel to the chapter 13 discussions. Last week we had covered some 12 verses of the 13th chapter. So let's see what we discuss today.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, one thing which always used to bother me and interest me as well. In my childhood, I used to watch many movies, sci-fi movies, and those movies. So the robots used to the humans used to build the robots, and eventually the robots take over the humans. And so that always amazed me in a way. And the robots used to have some emotions. They used to think like humans and think in a way much better than how humans used to think. So, so will the robots eventually take over the world, Prabhu? Because the technology nowadays is so advanced, and every day a new version of the artificial intelligence is being developed. And I try to stay in touch with that, and I get amazed by the new. There's a new feature where you can replicate a person's voice, lip sync. You can create an absolutely new video of that person without even having any
Reference.
video of that person, reference of that person. At the rate at which artificial intelligence is developing, and will they have consciousness in them, and will they compete with humans? Is that possible?
Okay, so will they have consciousness and will they compete with humans? I guess a lot of it is projected and glamorized in the skiffy movies, which have become almost close to, people just believe in those in what is projected in those movies as true. Isn't it? So a lot of it is, and it's projected that this might, this happens and this robot takes over, and so this is not new. There have been precedents to it. Dr. Frankenstein, he creates a humanoid which actually, is destructive. So whether it is chemical, uh, chemical permutations, or artificial intelligence permutations, somewhere this imagination is there, right? That there is, a possibility of, uh, there's a possibility of humanoids taking over humans, right? Machines taking over humans. And but if I quote to you from Puranas that mountains used to fly, there was a time when the mountains used to fly, or there's a talking vulture, hmm, right? Uh, then you might as well, you might very much say that, oh, this is unscientific, this is bogus, this is mythology. The term itself is given as mythology. It's myth. It can't be true. But with the confidence with which these kind of descriptions are brushed aside, we aren't we aren't having the same yardstick when it comes to such imaginative projections from the skiffy movies, right? If a flying mountain is an imagination, a humanoid taking control over the human race is an imagination. Why should we have two different yardsticks, right? If we are talking to be scientific, why be condescending to the past imagination, right? And be eulogizing the future imagination, right? We should have the same yardstick. What is objective and acceptable. What is beyond objective parameters is something which we need to explore. So so that's the first thought that I get. Okay, if you are opening the door for exploring this, I would also request you to open the door to explore the description of the Puranas of the Vimanas, Pushpak Viman, flying in the sky. So so let's be open to both of them. The skiffy of the modern movies and the skiffy, so-called skiffy of the Puranas as well. And that's the first point. Now the second point is, I talked about being objective. Let's objectively see what a humanoid or any sort of machine is. The first machine of this sort was a Turing machine, computing. Like this has all evolved from computing, right? When the computers were built, discovered, and so on and so forth. This is all an outcome of that. And the first, most primitive computing machine is the abacus. And then came the Turing machine. Now, what is a Turing machine? A Turing machine basically has a tape which is made up of units of square blocks with 0 or 1 written on them, and there's a reading head which can read whether it is a 0 or a 1, and based on the sequence 1 1 0 1 0 0 1 1 0, whatever the sequence, there's a certain uh, interpretation, like basically computational interpretation, a number, for example, in terms of addition, subtraction, multiplication. The Turing machine is a kind of an abacus, an evolved abacus, right? Because abacus, you have to pull the numbers and then you can add things. So was an evolved abacus, and then the Turing machine further evolved. The basic building block is the same, right? That you have these digits 0 and 1, and their permutation and combinations help you in computation. So that Turing machine evolved into computers, then into supercomputers, and supercomputers giving way to data science and artificial intelligence. But if we are having an intrigue about something, if we are having a confusion about something, it's always better to break it down to the building blocks. So ये पूरा AI जो इतना like kind of हमको इतना it overawes us. It's basically an evolved Turing machine and an evolved abacus. So if I told you that there will be a day when the abacus will take over the humans and will take over the world, you won't believe it. If I told you if a Turing machine will one day take over the world, you won't believe it. It's so counterintuitive that it just can't happen. By it just 0101 ka reading head hai. So what all the computational technologies which are the source of today's artificial intelligence basically operates on this basic simple principle of binary digits, helping us mechanizing the computations, right? So if you say that an abacus taking over the human race is absurd, then a robot or a humanoid taking over human race is equally absurd. Yes. Now another thing is that, objectively speaking, let's also not smudge our intelligence with the glamour of the skiffy movies. उसमें जो दिखाया उसके हिसाब से let's not create perceptions. Objectively speaking, what is it that humanoids or robots can do? Basically, artificial intelligence, what it does is it doesn't mimic all the features of human faculties. It just tries to mimic one feature, which is, to some extent, which is thinking. Now, the human psychic faculties have three features: thinking, feeling, willing, which means thoughts, emotions, and desires. Now, as much as we may create a complete fascination about it, but effectively it's just limited to replicating the way human thinking works. So that human thinking, whether it is in terms of mathematical operations such as multiplication, addition, division, or is it or if it is say you know uh, something like creating a poem or an essay, right? So what AI is doing is replicating the way we think to produce these things, like say computation or linguistic things like essays or poems. So the train of thoughts is followed. Okay, what is the train of thoughts behind production of a poem? What is the train of thoughts behind calculations that we do? That is traced down, traced back, and then instead of us doing that processing here, there is an external processor which replicates the same process through 0 and 1 through binary digits, right? So semiconductors, and it just happens to be much faster than what we do. So and then just because it is much faster than us, we seem to be fascinated, but वो fascination में we should not give kind of much more credit to AI than what it deserves. Ultimately, it's computation. It's a Turing machine, which is a glorified Turing machine, right? And we haven't been and we cannot replicate feelings and desires, right? So that is something which you can only see in skiffy movies. To have feelings, to feel happy and sad, to feel frustrated and neglected. So these are things which matter doesn't have, right? So these feelings are very unique to humans, and similarly desires. A humanoid desiring to destroy the world, right? It's not a humanoid's desire. It's the desire of a human projected on a humanoid, and the humanoid may just have access to some technology which even humans have to destroy the world, right? Basically, whatever the programming behind the programming is the programmer, and that cannot be eliminated. The human cannot be eliminated from the scene, and so whatever the humanoids do, it's just in the realm of replicating human thinking, and nowhere is in the realm of feelings and desires. So yeah, definitely humanoids can exaggerate the amount of good work or the bad work which humans have the potential to do, but they cannot become humans, because for that you need the kshetragya, the spirit soul, which only Krishna can give. which we humans cannot, by our free, choice, say, create a Kshetragya. We can just create a Kshetra. So does that make sense, Surya Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, very much. And you broke down the answer so well that it forced me to think in a certain way, which I never did. Thank you very much, Prabhu. So you mentioned in your first part of the answer that we sometimes neglect the flying mountains, the speaking vultures, and the stories in Puranas as myth. And that's because some people find it very illogical. And कि ऐसे कैसा हो सकता है यार? क्योंकि my past experiences don't support the way the things are projected in the Puranas. So things related to God and can God be explained through logic, pure logic, Prabhu, and understood by
Okay. You want to trap me in my own game? Okay. So logic is a ladder, which can see, logic is like a ladder, or logic is like a taxi, which can help you reach the airport, right? So, but in order to take off, you can't sit in a taxi and take off. Logic can bring you to some level where you to the airport, to the runway. It can bring you to the runway, but then to take off, you need a higher dimensional vehicle, which goes in the third dimension. You can not fly being in the 2D plane. You need to activate the third dimension. So similarly, logic can operate in the 2D of this world, and it can also help us get to the runway of spirituality. But then to expect logic to have us a takeoff is very far-fetched. Logic, if say, suppose we say that God can be understood by logic, right? So then logic happens to be greater than God. कि अगर मेरे पास से 12 इंच का स्केल है, ठीक है, और मैं वो 12 इंच के स्केल से ये मोबाइल के स्क्रीन को मेजर कर लेता हूँ, इट्स अ 6.1 इंच स्क्रीन मोबाइल, तो क्या हो गया? विच इज बिगर, द स्केल और द मोबाइल?
the scale.
The scale is bigger, right? So if I can use logic to measure God, I can use it to measure up God, then logic must be bigger than God, which is not the case, because by definition, God is the greatest, which gives measurements its reality, right? The God who gives us logic cannot be bound by our logic, right? The brain who created us cannot be understood by the brain created by him. So logic is a minister. It can advise us. It's not the master. Right? The minister can advise. It can give indications. Okay, you can look for God in this direction. Right? So it is a ladder. It's a taxi which can take us in the right direction. But then, जैसे अगर वो शाखा चंद्र न्याय कहते हैं, न्याय इज लॉजिक, शाखा चंद्र न्याय. तो अगर आपको एक बच्चे को चंद्र दिखाना है, चंद्रमा दिखाना है, सो देखो देखो वो चंदा मामा, चंदा मामा किधर है किधर है किधर है, वो ही इज लुकिंग ऑल ओवर द प्लेस 360 डिग्री. तो उसको बोले रुक रुक रुक, वो देख, वो सामने अपना दीवार दिख रहा है, हाँ दीवार दिख रहा है, दीवार के आगे देख एक पेड़ है, हाँ पेड़ दिख रहा है, वो देख पेड़ को अभी धीरे धीरे ऊपर देख ऊपर देख ऊपर देख, हाँ ऊपर देख, हाँ वो देख उसकी branches, you are seeing its branches. Yes, I can see the branches. Now between those two branches, can you see a round object? Oh yes, I can see around, that's the moon. But you cannot say कि I have been able to grasp the tree, so I can grasp the moon also. You can go to the parapet wall and go and catch that tree, और उसकी 2 branches को भी जाके पकड़ सकते हो. But then you cannot say that, अरे, I was able to see the moon by following this tree, so I can also catch the moon just as I'm able to catch the tree. No, sir, it doesn't happen like that. Logic can give us indication and direction in which we can find God, and can help us understand in which direction we won't find God. But it cannot capture God. So God is neither logical nor illogical. Okay, you may say कि अरे चलो लॉजिक से काम नहीं होगा तो एकदम illogical हो जाते हैं. जो मर्जी आए वो करो. And that's also some cults are there. Do whatever you like, that's spirituality. आपको जो अच्छा लगता है वही spiritual है. So that's illogical. So God is neither logical nor illogical. He is translogical. He is beyond what our limited logic can approach. But logic can definitely give us direction in which we can find God. अभी जैसे if you want to find the sun, right, in the night, रात को सूरज ढूंढ सकते हो? नहीं ढूंढ सकते. आप बोलो नहीं यार टॉर्च लाइट लेके जाता हूँ, कुछ भी रात को ढूंढना होता है टॉर्च लाइट से ढूंढते हैं. तो सूरज को भी ढूंढना है, मैं टॉर्च लाइट लेके ढूंढूं. टेक अ टॉर्च लाइट एंड roam the entire city. You won't find the sun till it rises on its own accord the next morning. So logic is like the torchlight. तो जब भगवान को अपने आप को रिवील करना है तब वो करेंगे. हम लॉजिक की टॉर्च लाइट लेके घूमे चाहे नहीं घूमे, he will reveal on his terms, not our terms. So yeah, definitely we can use logic to filter out where God is not. But we cannot or what God is not. But we cannot use logic to say कि मैं अपने logic में से ही बना लूंगा एक भगवान, कि मेरा भगवान ऐसा है. God has to be revealed just as sun is revealed, and God reveals in the through his shabda, through his word. That is the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam. Krishna swadhama upagate dharma jnanadibisa kalo nashta drishamesha purana arko adhunodita. When Krishna left the planet, the entire planet was engulfed by the darkness of ignorance. But then the Srimad Bhagavatam, the son of Srimad Bhagavatam arose, which dissipated all the darkness. So if we expose ourselves to the sun of the Shastras, to the scriptures, then yes, we can access and understand God. Right? But just purely based on our logic, if we want to capture God, that's very illogical, to say the least. What do you say?
Yes, Prabhu. This thing of going beyond logical and illogical things, that is, God is translogical. That's another dimension on which we can think. And, Prabhu, as mentioned in Gita in previous chapters, that one can transcend to different lokas within this world. Through good karmas, you can go to heaven, and our individual soul goes to heaven and becomes a part of the Devaloka. And we see here in this world, so there are many temples of Devatas. So, can Devatas being individual souls, can they be present in the deity form in so many places? And if yes, can they accept offerings and be conscious of the worship if they are in their heavenly planet and they have a deity here? So how does that work?
Yeah, this is a very intriguing question. That the Vishnu Tattva. So Krishna says in the Gita, Sarvasya Panipadam Tat Sarvaksh Akshishiro Mukham. So Krishna has hands, legs spread out everywhere. The Vishnu Murti, Vishnu has that all-pervading feature. But the Devatas, they are individual souls, and these are various posts occupied by an individual soul. For example, you have Vayudev, it's a portfolio, and a particular living entity who is sufficiently pure and qualified is given that post. Varun Dev, it's a post, and a particular living entity. In every manvantra, the scriptures describe there is re-election, just as for our legislative assemblies, we have every 5 years re-election. So similarly, every manvantra there is a re-election for these posts. God re-elects different set of devatas, Varun Dev, Vayu Dev, Indra Dev, Chandra Dev. All of these are re-elected. But as far as Krishna is concerned, he is the Supreme Lord, absolute truth, who is the same person, right? And he's all pervading. So these devatas being individual souls, can they have the power to accept our offerings when we are giving them, oblations or offerings in through the deity form? So now we need to again bring you this concept which is mentioned in this chapter, simple concept of Kshetra and Kshetragya, right? So the living entity, in order to interact with this world, in order to interface with this world, is given a certain Kshetra. Because unless I have a Kshetra, I cannot perform my business. Yeah, if you want to start any business, if you want to start any establishment, the first thing you need is some land, some capital, some resources. You need a Kshetra. हवा में आप start नहीं कर सकते कुछ. So similarly, when it comes to doing our business in this world, you are given a certain Kshetra based on the kind of credits that you have, right? So an ant is given a small Kshetra, an elephant is given a big Kshetra, yeah, and a Devata is given even bigger Kshetra. Say Varun Dev, he has, what is his Kshetra?
The water bodies.
All the water bodies.
Water bodies.
अभी दुनिया में किसी वाटर बॉडी में कुछ भी हो उनको पता रहता है. Yeah, that all that Kshetra is under his supervision. So he is conscious of what's happening. Now Vayudev, कहीं पे cyclone आ गया, कहीं पे कुछ hurricane आया. So Vayudev is consciously orchestrating everything because he has to manifest the natural conditions based on the karma of the living entities. So he's personally, just as we have the power to influence and move our hand the way we desire, Vayudev has wind as his hands. So the way he directs, the winds move. So he is conscious and is able to manipulate the Kshetra of wind. Varun Dev is able to manipulate the Kshetra of the water bodies. Agni Dev is able to manipulate and be conscious of the Kshetra of fire. Isn't it logical to understand? Yeah. So it is not that Kshetra belongs to them. That Kshetra is allocated to them by Lord Vishnu. And for a certain duration, they preside over that Kshetra. But then when the position changes, then some other soul comes and takes up that Kshetra as easily as we take up the Kshetra of this body, and without any conscious endeavor, we are conscious of what's happening. Stomach pain हो रहा है, सर दर्द हो रहा है, हमको पता लगता है. ऐसा नहीं है हमको दिमाग लगाना पड़ता है, कहाँ स्टमक में कुछ है क्या, पता लगता है. It's as natural as that. So it's the Sat, Chit, and Anand, the potencies of the Lord. The Sat Shakti, in its perverted form in this material world, unites the jiva with the matter, and that's where this connection takes place. And then we become Sat leads to Chit. When there's a connection, there is consciousness, and then we become conscious of the kshetra to which we have been tied to. And then there is experience. There is connection, consciousness, and then there is happiness or sorrow, which is experience. So that's what happens. So now this kshetra is assigned by the Lord, and just as the kshetra of Vayu is assigned to Vayudev, as through the scriptures, the devatas, it has been recommended, it has been prescribed that these devatas can be approached when they are worshipped through a deity, through an idol, which has been established in a proper prescribed manner. Yeah. And yes, if it is done in the proper prescribed manner, bona fide manner, that deity receives that kshetra by the power of God, by the power of Vishnu. Yeah. So this is what how we can understand that devatas can get the power just as they can access such huge territories of kshetra. Bhumi Devi. Bhumi Devi is conscious of what's happening at each nook and cranny, each grain of sand. कहाँ पे ऑयल रिगिंग कर रहे हैं, कहाँ पे गोल्ड माइनिंग कर रहे हैं, सब दर्द उनको हो रहा है, right? So Bhumi Devi is conscious of the entire Bhumi, and if a deity is made in the proper prescribed fashion, the devata also becomes conscious of that and is able to reciprocate through that. But ultimately, Krishna says that it is I only who provide you the fruits of that worship. He only strengthens that faith and he provides the fruits of that worship. So yes, Prabhu, this is these were some thoughts on this question.
Yes, Prabhu. I have more clarity in that. Thank you. And Prabhu, one thing I always pondered upon is, seems that this system is rigged kind of feeling, and it seems that the jivas have been resigned to the fate of sin and suffering in this world, and the senses are attracted to the sense objects, and they impel us to force us to act in a certain way, and we commit sin, and by the laws of the nature we suffer. So isn't God responsible for our plight by creating evil in this world in the first place? And is he even still alive, Prabhu?
Mm-hmm. Even
Alive?
okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, so this 13th chapter especially, it discusses about the role of the Ishwar, the Prakriti, and the Jiva. What are they capable of doing, and what are they responsible for? So therefore, we call the session today as RACI matrix of the universe. You have heard of a RACI matrix? In companies, they have something called a RACI matrix: responsible, accountable, consult, inform. So, क्या है, unless someone is responsible for something, the task doesn't happen. Everyone's responsibility is no one's responsibility. Yeah. So when you assign a person who is responsible for something, then the task happens. But responsible से भी ऊपर accountable है कि गलती हुआ तो किसका कान पकड़ने का. Yeah. So there has to be someone who is responsible, has a supervisor above him or her who is accountable, the head of the department. The responsible is the person responsible for counting the cash is the cashier in the bank. But if he makes a mistake, who is accountable? Who will the senior manager catch? Hmm? Is the officer above that cashier, right? So that's the person who's accountable. Then there is consult. That in case of a confusion, whom to consult? Who? An expert, right? And then once your task is done, inform uh, the respective departments, and so basically, what how we are connecting here is that in this universe, who is responsible for the things which happen to us? How much are we ourselves responsible? How much is God responsible? And how much is Prakriti, the material nature, responsible? Hmm? So let's see, like this, especially in the section from the 20th to the 24th verse, this entire mystery is very nicely resolved. It's quite interesting the way it is done. Uh, I'll read the verses for you and then we will discuss the meaning. 20th verse, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhi Anadhi Ubhau Api Vikaramsha Gunamshaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Material energy, material nature, and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So basically, Prakriti and Jiva, they are Anadi because they are both energies of the Lord. It's not that the Jiva has been created at a certain point of time. God is eternal and beginningless, and the energies of God are also eternal and beginningless. So it's not that the Prakriti came at some point of time or we were created at some point of time. So we are eternal. That's the first verse, like 20th verse in the section. Next verse uh, basically resolves the question that you are asking. कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे हेतु प्रकृतिरुच्यते पुरुष सुख दुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतुरुच्यते. Nature is said to be the cause of all material cause and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So basically, nature is the cause, karya, karana, kartritva. What is karya? Karya means the body. The, it also means the cause, but it also means the body. It refers to the body as per Vishwanath Chakri Thakur. Karya refers to the body. So the body which we have been provided has been given by Prakriti. It comes from earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, which don't belong to the jiva. ये प्रकृति देता है. आप किसी means you go for a vacation to a particular place, you go to the hotel, वो होटल आपको रूम असाइन करता है, वो होटल आपको सारा फैसिलिटीज उधर देगा, एवरीथिंग दैट यू नीड, है ना. आपको अगर माउंटेन स्केटिंग करना है तो उसके लिए जो भी स्केट्स है सब कुछ देगा, राइट. ऑल ऑफ दैट इज प्रोवाइडेड. सो the body is provided by Prakriti. Karanam are the senses. Now within this body, which is just made of the gross element, there are subtle senses which are also provided by the Prakriti. And Kartritva is someone who makes those senses and the body work and activate. These are the devatas. So for each of the sense organs that we have, there's a particular devata who is activating that, who is energizing that and ensuring that it works. So for example, for the eye or akshini, the sense is, the eye is just the physical eye, it's the part of the body, but behind the eye is the subtle sense, because the physical eye is only as good as a camera. A camera can capture but it cannot see, right? but we can see because we have a subtle sense called chakshu, which is not made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, which is made, which is made of the subtle body. Yeah. Then who is activating that chakshu is the devata of the sun god, right? So the sun god, it activates that chakshu to be able to not just capture an image, in terms of the way we discussed in the last session, that how the way we see things is so like kind of enigmatic, that the light photons frequencies, they enter through the people, and on the retina that image is formed, but then the whole thing happens, but then it is just a mechanical process, but behind that there's a subtle sense organ, chakshu, and over and above that is the sense devata of sun god, who is actually giving us that subtle experience of seeing. So this entire thing is provided by the prakriti, but purusha sukha dukkha nam, this verse says, 21st verse says, purusha sukha dukkha nam bhoktratve hetu ruchyate, but that the experience that we get due to the desires that we have is the person responsible for that is the jiva. So we are not responsible for the act of seeing. We are not responsible for the experience of what we see. We are responsible for the desire of seeing. The only thing that we have in our control is our desire. Once you desire, ट्रेन छूट गई है, उसके बाद में हम मतलब इट द प्रकृति फैसिलिटेट्स. यू डिजायर मुझे नेटफ्लिक्स पे ये मूवी देखना है, आपने क्या किया, डिजायर किया, उसके बाद बाकी सब तो नेटफ्लिक्स ने अरेंज किया ना आपके लिए, या नेटफ्लिक्स एंड so that's like the prakriti. It shows you the entire movie. So in the RACI matrix, who is responsible? So both are responsible. The prakriti is responsible for giving us the instrument, the senses, and the sense devatas for activating that entire mechanism. But then जो पहला desire किसने किया, हमने किया. So we are responsible for the desire that we have, and then you said that the senses are so naturally attracted for sense objects, and then in the process there is sinful action. So it's not that the senses are attracted to the sense objects, it's our desires which actually create that attraction. So if you look at it, by choosing certain desires, we actually choose a particular mind, and that mind sees some certain things that are attractive. Yeah. So now a beautiful woman is there. A small boy sees her as mother. Yeah. A lion sees as breakfast, and गली का लुच्चा लफंगा बदमाश sees as object of enjoyment. Yeah. So where did these different perceptions come in from? Based on the different desires of these three different living entities. So it's the desire which creates the perception, and the desire which creates the attraction. So तीनों को आंख वैसा ही आंख है. All three have the same eye with eyeballs, but then there's different types of attractions. The attraction is not created by the senses, it's created by the desires that an individual carries, and so therefore Prakriti simply facilitates to give us a particular body to fulfill our desires, and then what happens when we fulfill those desires is a consequence that we need to suffer, or so that's where it comes to. And in this regard, what is the role of the Paramatma? Let's read the verse further. Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangasya sadasad yoni janmashu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. So, the idea is that we desire, and according to our desire, the Prakriti facilitates all those, the body and the situations, and then we enjoy in a certain way. If we enjoy in a sinful way, we are bound to suffer. Yeah. So that entire trigger for the entire thing is our desire. So therefore, we cannot say that, oh, the senses are attracted to sense object. हमारे पास तो कोई hope और scope ही नहीं है. We are helplessly just puppets. No, we can work on our desires. Yeah. And then finally, where does God come into picture in this entire RACI matrix? 23rd verse says that Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehe Asmin Purusha Para. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. So the super soul is the one who is Upadrashta, he is observing, and Anumanta. Whatever is happening, he is observing, and he is also permitting. Without his permit, not even a blade of grass can move. So he is permitting the material nature to facilitate, and he is permitting us to kind of keep on throwing newer and newer desires. Yeah. So that's the magnanimity of the Lord, that he is providing us the Prakriti to fulfill our desires and then facilitating it the same. And एक example मैं दे देता हूँ just to make this whole thing comprehensible. थोड़ा logic को use कर लेते हैं ना. So basically it's like an analogy of the sun, a field, and seeds. So now if you look at what kind of harvest you will get is dependent on all these three factors: the sun, the field, and the seeds. What kind of field you have is depending on how did the farmer use the field in the previous seasons. In the previous seasons, if I have just kind of neglected the soil, if I have just very mindlessly used chemical fertilizers and pesticides and ruined the soil of all its microorganisms and micronutrients, then in this particular season, in the current when I am going to sow, the soil, the field will be barren, right? But if I have worked on my field in the previous life, if I have kind of worked on my field in the previous life, I'm using crop rotation, I'm using organic manures and all, then the soil will be ready. Yeah. So previous season is previous life. Based on what we have done in the previous life, in this season, जैसे आजकल हर चीज के चाहे वो बिग बॉस हो, कॉफी विद करण, चाहे कौन बनेगा करोड़पति, सबके सीजन्स निकलते रहते हैं, एंडलेसली सीजन चलाते रहते हैं. तो ये जीवात्मा भी सीजन ही निकालता रहता है. So in the previous season, what we have done determines what kind of field we get, the body that we get in this season. But even if you have got a good body, the seed, if your seed is that of cactus seed, thorny tree seeds, then even with the best of field, you will get thorny bushes. Yeah. So these seeds are the desires जो हम आज सो कर रहे हैं. हमारा फील्ड अच्छा आया है, लेकिन हम if the desires which we are sowing today are of thorny bushes, what we are going to get is thorny bush. Then what is the function of the sun? The sun impartially gives heat and light for photosynthesis. आपको जो भी प्रोड्यूस करना है, आपको चाहे धान प्रोड्यूस करना है, चाहे आपको धतूरा प्रोड्यूस करना है, the sun is giving equal light. So similarly, the परमात्मा, the super soul is giving equal sanction. आपको जो करना है हम facilitate करेंगे. The sun causes the rain, and the rain causes all nourishment to the vegetation. All that is provided by the sun. Now it's up to us how we use the field that we have, and what are the kind of desires that we sow in our consciousness. Yeah. So if we do these two things nicely, we are going to get a very good harvest. Yeah, spiritually uplifting harvest, and materially also rewarding harvest. So yes, Prabhu, Surya Prabhu, I hope you are not no longer despondent कि अब तो हम कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते.
Yes, at the same time, very aware of where my desires go and how to plant my desires carefully. So understanding the root is very important. Thank you very much, Prabhu. So one more question, Prabhu. Assuming that
let this be the last question that we take, and
yes,
then yeah.
Assuming that this soul is the cause of consciousness, and I recently read in Prabhupada's purport that the tree has a dormant level of consciousness, and a human has a much more different expression of the consciousness, and these varying expressions of consciousness in different species would then be ascribed to differences in their soul, through that if the does the size of the species relate to the varying degree of the consciousness? Because is the soul of an elephant bigger than that of a ant, and is the soul of a tree dumb and the soul of a human much more intelligent?
Okay. Very, very interesting question indeed. So the soul is a different dimension of existence. Just as one dimension cannot be measured by another dimension. So I cannot measure space in hours. एक लेडी थी, वो क्या अपना ग्वालन लेडी थी. So she came to the city. And she came to the city and she was walking by and seeing different cloth shops, different types of shops. So she went to a cloth shop and she said, I want to buy this cloth. तो वो बोले 4 मीटर कपड़ा कितना चाहिए? 4 मीटर. अच्छा 4 मीटर. तो वो अपना इससे स्केल से अपना स्केल से मेजर करने लगा कि 4 मीटर. तो बोले नहीं नहीं नहीं, इससे ये गलत है, ये इससे नहीं मापो. तो किससे मापो? तो बोले ये लो मेरा दूध का लोटा, इससे मापो. अरे इससे कोई इसको थोड़ी ना मापता है, कपड़े को थोड़ी ना मापता है. अरे कैसे नहीं माप सकते? अरे मैं 1 किलो से 100 किलो दूध इससे माप लेती हूँ. सब कुछ इससे माप लेती हूँ मैं, ये भी इससे से माप लो. So it's insane, right? So when you say that based on the size of the body, you try to understand the size of the soul. It's trying to measure a cloth with a दूध का लोटा. नहीं होता है वो. The soul is a different dimension altogether, and you cannot understand and measure the size of a soul with a yardstick. Yeah. So now, yes, there are descriptions in the scriptures, balasya shatabhagasya shatadha, that 1/10,000 of the tip of the hair is the size of, but that is like referred to as indicative of the subtleness of the soul. You cannot measure something spiritual with something material. Yeah. So that's the first thing we need to understand. That's a different dimension of existence. And then second is what Krishna says in this last section of this 13th chapter, from the 27 to 33rd verse. I would like to read this verse for you as an answer. Uh, I would like to read 33rd and 34th verse. The 33rd verse, it reads, just as ether, though entering everywhere into mud or other impure items, is not touched by their qualities because of being very subtle, so the jiva, though situated in all high and low bodies of devas and men and animals, is not contaminated by those qualities because he is very subtle. So the soul is, present in a dog's body, a hog's body, and a tree's body, or a tiger's body, or a human's body, or a devata's body. The body is just the vehicle. कि चाहे वो पोर्श में बैठो, लैम्बोर्गिनी में बैठो, फरारी में बैठो, चाहे आप मारुति ओमनी में बैठो, और चाहे आप बजाज स्कूटर पे बैठो, द ड्राइवर इज द सेम. यू कैन नॉट से कि अरे जो जो टाटा ट्रक में बैठते हैं ना वो बड़ा होता है आदमी. चाहे टाटा ट्रक में बैठा हो, चाहे वो साइकिल पे बैठा हो, driver is of the same size. The vehicle has changed its size. So that's the thing. And it also says that the soul situated is not affected. It does not mix with anything. It's oil and water, they don't mix. So the soul and body don't mix. It's just a superimposition created by the mind. The soul remains pure as it is. It just has a corrupted glass. बस ये जो दुनिया है और हमारा जो रियलिटी है उसके बीच में एक ग्लास है माइंड का, एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज क्रिएटिंग दिस आर्टिफिशियल रियलिटी फॉर अस. एंड सो द सोल डजंट गेट अफेक्टेड. एंड द नेक्स्ट वर्स, 34th वर्स, इट सेज, इट आंसर्स दिस क्वेश्चन कि भाई एलिफेंट का सोल बड़ा है कि एंट का सोल बड़ा है. लेट्स सी व्हाट गीता सेज. यथा प्रकाशयति एका कृष्णम लोकम इमम रवि क्षेत्रम क्षेत्री तथा कृष्णम प्रकाशयति भारत. As the sun alone eliminates all this universe, so does a living entity, one within the body, eliminates the entire body by consciousness. So, wherever you see there is the sun rays. So, does it mean that the sun has engulfed the entire universe? No, the sun is situated in one location, but from that one location, it is able to reach out to all nooks and crannies of the universe. So, similarly, the soul is situated in the region of the heart, and then from there it emanates rays of consciousness, and these rays of consciousness have the capability to reach to all the nooks and corners of the body or the kshetra which we have been assigned, right? If it is an elephant, very vast kshetra. If it is an ant, very minuscule kshetra, right? So that's how we can understand that the soul is not is the driver, and it doesn't matter what is the size of the vehicle it is driving. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu, the example of sun and the energy of sun explains it really well. Thank you very much, Prabhu. And that's it from my side. And if any of the audience members, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box or unmute yourself.
Yes, please. And also please do share how did you find today's discussion. Was there something interesting or some new discovery which you found?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, with Priya.
Prabhuji, I loved the class today. It was very interesting. And I have a question I wanted to ask. So we know that there are a lot of people aware of the Bhagavad Gita, and they are aware that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, but yet they are not convinced, or their faith isn't that strong, and they struggle to believe in Krishna's existence. So does that mean that Krishna has not revealed himself to them yet, or he has already revealed himself, but Krishna has left it up to their own free will to understand him or not? So is it Krishna's role in this, or is it our own free will which is stopping us from understanding Krishna, even though he revealed himself to us?
Um, so for that we'll have to go to the 17th chapter of the Gita, I guess, which talks of Shraddha, types of Shraddha. But Krishna gives us, whatever desires we have, you know, accordingly Krishna provides us a particular faith, you know, to be able to pursue those desires. If you desire to 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 become rich and famous, Krishna will give us faith that this is the goal of life and this is the all in all. And then all the justifications for doing that will automatically follow, because reason is a servant of faith. Wherever, and your faith is a servant of your desires. So, but when we transcend the realm of material desires and cultivate spiritual desires, Krishna provides us the faith to actually facilitate fulfillment of those desires. And that faith will lead to opening up of new logic, new rational, and a new belief system. Yeah. And so as far as faith in Krishna is concerned, that faith is the seed of that faith is provided by devotees, because bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, bhakti can only be can only blossom through the seed of bhakti. So the faith in the heart of another devotee, when it actually enters, through our ears, or through when we interact with devotees, that faith enters our heart, and then we develop shraddha on the Lord. And it's a process. Overnight, no one develops complete faith. And from Adav Shraddha to Prema, the 8 steps of development of Prema is all gradual development of faith. At the level of Adav Shraddha, there's little Shraddha, little faith that maybe this Krishna is the Supreme God. Maybe Krishna consciousness is the right way to achieve perfection in life. Maybe these devotees are really nice people. There is some faith. Yeah. And then you start associating. After that, there's some little faith, you start associating with devotees. Your faith has increased. When you associate with devotees, you also want to hear them bhajana kriya. You want to hear and chant the way they do. And so basically it's a gradual increment in faith till prema. So you cannot say that just because someone is chanting, they have got complete faith. Till the level of prema, this is a gradual development of faith only, of shraddha only. So how does that come? 2 fingers. Our endeavor and Krishna's mercy. To go from one level to another, we need our endeavor to get that faith, and we need Krishna's mercy. Our endeavor, when pleases Krishna, he gives his mercy, and then we get to the next level. And that's true for everyone, even ourselves. Also, we cannot claim that okay, we have faith in Krishna. We have a fraction of faith, which is kind of uh, making us to say spend 1 hour on a Saturday evening discussing Gita. But we don't have the faith of the gopis to give up everything and 24 hours think of Krishna. Yeah. So that's a process. Both it happens on its own course. Make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. So faith is actually dependent on our desire to know about Krishna, and it's not about, okay, I got it. Thank you, Prabhuji. And about the technology part of our discussion also. So our period of time is dependent on machine technology. So in the other yugas, was it dependent on other technologies that we see a lot of, you know, Hanuman lifting the Hanuman lifting the mountain, and are all these technologies as well?
Hmm. Yes, yes, they are technologies of the subtler level. Even today, you see temples built 1,000, 2,000 years ago, and they are so majestic. God knows, without the JCBs and cranes, how did they manage to build such? It's still a mystery that how were these temples built. So Devanand Swami Maharaj, in his book Searching for Vedic India, he writes that there were specific mantras which could be chanted to make stone light as feather, and then lift it and then place it. Yeah. So there are mantras, but this science and technology is lost. Yeah, because with this material, with this gross technology that we are doing so much destruction, as we can see, atom bombs, hydrogen bombs, drones, all of the warfare that we are engaging in. So say, just imagine if we had the subtler technologies, what kind of havoc we could have caused. So they are not available us to us for a reason, and also it takes a certain amount of purity to be able to access those technologies, the subtle technologies, which currently is not present. But the highest technology is available nonetheless. We may not be able to access the subtle technologies at the level of mind and the intelligence, and but we have access to the highest spiritual technology by which we can mm, access God directly, access all the powers of God. Namna Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. God has invested all his powers in the holy name. What to speak of the power of the, Brahmastra. The power of God himself is available in this holy name, and that's accessible. And this holy name can cut through the, very thickest, kind of layer, which is the layer of ignorance. The weapons of this world can cut mountains, but the weapon of the holy name can cut through the layers of ignorance, which cannot be otherwise be broken. So yeah, great prayer. So there's no reason for us to feel in need of those technologies, and even if we had them, we won't know how to use them and what to put them to use for.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. So,
Thank you.
yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with Priya, Vinay, Gopi, ji, and Harshini ji. So thank you for staying with us all through, and looking forward for the next podcast on in the next week on the 14th chapter. Right, Surya bro?
Yes, bro. Next Saturday, that would be the 16th. Next Saturday.
Yes,
Yes,
we hope to do it on 16th.
yes. And then,
Yeah. Any last thing anyone wants to say?
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, actually, I had one question regarding Ekadashi. Can I ask that now or later on?
You can ask. Yes, we are just winding up, so you can ask.
Yeah, so yesterday I was reading about the stories and all. So in that it was written that we have to get up in the morning and in the late we have to take the shower and everything. We cannot sleep in today's day and every. But so now it's not possible for us. Even if we do brushing and all, we don't know the ingredients which we are using it. Is it okay if we sleep or do brushing and anything else? Like,
What do you say, Surya bro? Please help me out.
Yes, yes, we can. As far as my understanding is concerned, yes, we can. Sure. We can explain it better too.
Yeah, Harshini, thank you for the very sincere question. Um, Upavas. We are talking of doing the Ekadashi fast, Upavas. So, what does the word Upavas mean? Upa means close, and Vas means to stay. So, Upavas means staying close to God. Now, in order to stay close to God, we need to stay away from distractions which take us away from God. Yeah. So, we are trying to understand the principle of fasting. So, the details will automatically follow. So that's why when scriptures talk about upavas, they talk of two things. Means staying close to God and staying away from distractions which take us away from God. And what are the distractions generally that take us away from God is too much eating, too much sleeping, too much of entertainment, right? And so therefore on these days of fasting, we actually kind of draw out time from these activities which actually generally we indulge in. So we kind of हफ्ता वसूली करते हैं तो हफ्ते में एक बार कि I have been indulging too much into eating, sleeping and all of these entertainment activities. Let me take out time from here and give to Krishna because I want to stay close to Krishna at least for this one day. Go closer to him. And therefore on the day of fasting there are many regulations which is said that अच्छा इस दिन रात को मत सो पूरे दिन but रात को मत सो तो क्या why so that you can do bhajan but if you are in the night so drowsy and your body is not trained for that, instead of bhajan there will be a lot of bhajan on your head कि रात कब निकलेगी. So therefore, that's the principle of coming close to Krishna is violated. So instead, you can custom design your closeness, your proximity with Krishna. That what is the time? Early morning time is the best time. So you have a good night rest, and then early morning you wake up on the day of Ekadashi, chant, if possible, visit the temple, attend the arti ceremonies, hear the lecture, and then fasting. Fasting, like the idea is, कि अभी fasting doesn't mean just that okay, not eating grains. Fasting means that reducing our bodily demands, right? So nowadays there are Ekadashi dosas and Ekadashi pizzas and Ekadashi idlis and Ekadashi momos and पता नहीं क्या क्या बन जाता है. So that's not the point of fasting from grains. The point is that how to cut down on our bodily demands and feed the demands of the soul. So if we understand the principle, then details we can adjust very comfortably. So yeah, please have a good night rest and chant extra rounds if you can before you take rest and have some nice Ekadashi prasad if cook it, offer it to the Lord and have it. But the idea is to be conscious, Krishna conscious.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So was it Gopi who was asking the question?
Yeah, I was asking.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
I guess there is also fasting from the phone, especially today.
Oh,
that counts as a major distraction.
That's the most important one. Yeah.
If we do that, then we cannot hear your lectures. As today is Ekadashi.
Principle. The principle is what brings us closer to Krishna and takes us away. So phone, the same phone. We are not fasting from phone. We are fasting from the distraction which the phone can create. And if the phone can help us connect, that's wonderful. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. See you next week again. Same place, same time. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you very much for this.